Live from the headquarters of Common Sense, this is Common Sense Christianity. As always, I'm your host, Ethan Foster, here today with another episode. Guys, sorry I haven't been uploading a lot lately on the podcast, on YouTube, and on Instagram. I spent 2 weeks in Texas visiting family, just getting a break and just going and enjoying life. Much needed break, guys. And something I'm going to talk about something that really changed my perspective on things that I've discussed briefly before. But before we say that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. Give us a review, 5 star. Leave comments on YouTube and stuff, and spread the word about our ministry so we can continue to grow and share the gospel. Recently, I have been focusing on more cultural issues like Black Lives Matter, the riots, and a bit of politics too. I'm going to move away from that for a bit. And before I get back into the apologetics and debating atheists and stuff, I wanted to focus briefly on, for the next couple episodes, on things going on with captive orcas and other animals. And I'm gonna try and relate this back to us as Christians, which I do with pretty much every topic. So let's go ahead and get down into this. So my last stay in Texas, I went with my family to SeaWorld San Antonio. And I've been to SeaWorld a couple times in Orlando back when I lived in Florida. And orcas are by far my favorite animal. And so I went there partly to go see them, go see the orcas. Now, I'm sure many of you have watched the documentary Blackfish. I know I have. I've watched it several times. And so I already knew what these whales had to go through when I got there. But when you begin to see them personally, and begin to think about what they have to go through. You don't realize that until you get the personal experience uh, and see the actual conditions that they live in. And the reason I bring this up on a Christian podcast, on a podcast that talks about religion and atheism and all kinds of things, is because we as Christians have the moral and ethical responsibility to call out things that are unjust. And the reason I bring this up now is because, one, I'm just now realizing this, but two, we are talking about the injustices that are happening to African Americans in this country. So why not focus on all injustices that are going on in the world right now? And this is one that I deeply care about, and that I'm going to have a couple people on the podcast to discuss it and have an in-depth discussion to try and and find the compromises and find solutions to it, because you can't release them back into the wild safely. At least they'll probably die even if you train them appropriately. One of the most famous examples is the whale Kiko from the Free Willy movies. They released him in 1998, I believe, and he survived 5 years and later died alone with pneumonia. Uh, but there is many sides to this story. But just imagine for a sec that you were in the whale's position. You were taken from your family at a very young age and put into basically slavery of entertainment. That is unjust. And we have participated in it, me included. We have participated in the exploitation and the abuse of beautiful and amazing wild animals. And that is unjust. Now, they've been in captivity for so long, and some of them their whole lives, you can't just release them back into the wild. I understand that. But we have to focus on providing the most proper, most ethical place for them to live for their remaining days. I think SeaWorld made the right decision by ending their breeding program, but there is also another side to it to discuss, with the fact that their social structures are very complex, and that both genders are included in that, and that you basically just ruin the little social structure they have in captivity. And that's what I wanted to point out. There are a lot of sides to it, but at the end of the day, you cannot force these animals that are used to swimming hundreds of miles a day into tiny swimming pools Now that is painful for me personally to think about. Now again, there's more than one side to it. If we're talking about capturing whales that are hurt, that have been abandoned, or any other species for that matter, then I'm all for that. A rehabilitation program, sure, but not the exploitation and capturing of animals. That's not right. That is not how we should do things in this country or in the world, whether you're Christian or whether you're Mormon, Muslim, atheist, whatever. This is unjust, and we must stand up to it. And the one thing that always gets me is that places like SeaWorld are the only places where is the most convenient places where people can go and see these animals. That's the only reason I went. I'm not justifying it, but it is the only reason I went, and the only reason many people go. And that leads me to my next point. The money that is involved in it. These orcas are worth millions and millions of dollars. That's a lot of money. I'm sure you've heard of SeaWorld's infamous whale Tilikum. He killed 3 people. Why was he still performing? Why was he still there? Why didn't they change a lot with it? Now, one of the people that he killed, it was completely their fault. It was, I believe this homeless guy went in there, got into the tank, and yeah, basically got killed. That's his fault. But the other 2, I believe, were trainers. And that's a scary thing. But the reason that this happened is because Tilikum and other orcas like him were psychologically damaged from the treatment that we as humans have given to them. And once again, that is injustice. That is wrong. It is purely wrong to snatch them away from their families. And when you begin to understand the complex social structures of the families of residential orcas, and when you begin to understand the particular bonds that the mother and the son have, where they mostly don't leave each other's side for their whole lives, that is insane that we can even justify that, and that we're not more outraged about that. And this is a worldwide problem. It's a business. They're snatching baby whales from their mothers, or any other species for that matter. That's awful. If we were to do that to humans, we'd be outraged. We'd be morally outraged. But just because it's not an animal, just because it is an animal, just because it's not Homo sapien, or it doesn't have the same degree of intelligence, we sit here and don't put that with any moral equivalency to families getting separated at the border, for example. We don't have the same moral significance towards those things. And that's wrong. We should be outraged by it, because God specifically tells us to take care of the environment, to take care of the animals, to be responsible with what we have. So we need to fight against this in the proper ways. Now, once again, if boycotting isn't necessarily the best solution, because what are you boycotting against? Animal abuse? Okay, sure. But realize it takes a lot of money to take care of these animals. And this is what someone pointed out to me, who I will likely have on the podcast. Because if they lose money, they can't take care of them. So they'll suffer more. So there is a lot of sides to it. I'm opening up the discussion in the YouTube comments and on the Instagram comments. Please comment. Give me your thoughts on it. We'll continue talking about this and continue breaking it down. It's a very interesting topic that I care deeply about, and I wanted to share it with y'all. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of Common Sense Christianity. I'll start uploading a lot more now that my vacation's over and I'm back home here in the great state of Utah. Guys, continually stay safe, be responsible. COVID-19 is breaking out all over the country. We keep forgetting that we need to wear a mask, we need to participate in social distancing. I'm not the one for the lockdowns and all that, but just be responsible and stay safe, y'all. You're in my prayers. Pray for me, pray for the ministry, and help us continue growing it so we can continue spreading the word of Jesus Christ to all creation. And until next time, I'm Ethan Foster here with Common Sense Christianity.